This video is going to be breaking down 23 minutes of uncut Tiny Tina's Wonderlands gameplay from IGN. If you want to see the uncut version, check out the link below. Otherwise, I'm going to be breaking down absolutely everything that I see. And I gotta tell you guys, I'm really excited, so let's get right into it. So what you're seeing now is the start of the first mission and what seems to be the Dragon Lord talking to the main character. So there will be this kind of handsome Jack vibe to it, which is pretty cool, I think, because I really enjoyed that about Borderlands 2.
It's just us down here. Hey, I know I'm the villain, but I still just wanted to wish you luck on the whole quest thing. Not that you need luck, right? I mean, you're the fate maker.
Now, this is a Dungeons & Dragons style game narrated by Tiny Tina, so expect a lot of craziness from her narrative.
Before you rise the mighty walls of Great Hoof. But you're not the only new arrival. A massive skeleton army is sieging the city! Catapults! Scallymans! Skelly ships! There's bombs raining down!
Borderlands was always kind of random, but this will have Tiny Tina and a new villain narrating throughout the experience, so that is a dark magic spell there. That will either cost you health or regenerate some health back. We have some magic casting skeletons in the background there. You see him actually put up his staff and block some of those attacks there, so there won't just be straightforward enemies just firing arrows at you like this. Now, it looks to be as the player is playing the Berserker class, or the Berserker class, and that has a lot of frost-related passives. As you can see, even firing this acid-based weapon, the enemies are getting that chilled frost effect on them, and same with the melee attack there as well. Now, IGN does a good job at never looking at the loot. That must have been within their contract there. I'm not sure why, maybe because it'll make us speculate, but you also notice explosive barrels around there, magical effects, and that's typical of these kind of Gearbox games. We have some Skellymen vaulting down. One has no arms. I wonder if he just comes and headbutts you, but we don't get a chance to see, as the Berserker is using their Dreadwind ability to clear out these mobs. And you can tell the cooldowns are relatively short because he just cast it just prior to that. Now this is one of the weapons that you'll get in the game. It's a crossbow-based weapon, but it still fires like a regular gun. Here's another one, as well as that dark magic spell there. This one seems to actually lock onto enemies as it fires, which is pretty cool, but all of these weapons will have kind of a magic effect component to it. This one you can see fires kind of a line, and as it reloads, you sprinkle magic dust onto it instead of replacing a clip, so that's pretty cool. I think the character is over-geared or over-leveled for this particular segment, as IGN was stating. Not going to look at the loot yet again, but there we have a magic skeleton in the background there, and Dreadwind's back up again, and as with all of the action skills, you will be able to cast them quite regularly. I believe none of them will have a long cooldown.
You're fighting back against the endless tide of Skellymans! Though his armor is scarred by 100 battles, his honor is untarnished. It's Paladin Mike!
So as you can see, it is a Dungeons & Dragons style game, or bunkers and badasses in this universe. So when you meet allies, they'll obviously get their own character sheet. In this case, I'm going to skip ahead just so you don't have to see all the talking. But we have zero UI right now in all this gameplay as well, so you can't really see ammo, you can't see cooldowns. And there is a really cool spell, and I really want to know how long the cooldown on that one is, but spells replace grenades, so instead of throwing in a grenade with a button, you'll be throwing out a spell depending on what you have equipped. And there is also melee weapons that drop. So the axe that you saw there, that was obviously a weapon that had dropped with its own unique effects, its own unique damage. This one here though isn't a unique weapon, that is a class ability. That is a Berserker ability, and that has a low cooldown just like Dreadwind, but you can only have one equipped at a time. So you have your class abilities, you have 4 to choose from, 2 from each class. You get to multi-class, so you can have a Berserker and something else. You know, for example, you can be a Berserker and a Spore Warden, for example. Spore Warden has 2 action skills, and the Berserker has 2. You have to choose one, and they both have class perks. I'm not quite sure what the Berserker class perk is. I think it might be that frost effect that they get on all attacks, but the Spore Wardens is having a little mushroom pet follow you around. So while I was talking, he was using a unique shotgun there. I'm not sure if that was a legendary effect, but it was a cast point ability that fired arrows all around that enemy that flinged rocks. So expect crazy and wacky enemies and crazy and wacky weapons and spells and all kinds of things. They really have a license to do whatever they want because, you know, magic. So what's going on in this story is you got to take down these catapults. You obviously got to stop the siege of this this whimsical castle-y land. So how do we do that? Well, we just kill things. That's generally how it goes in these kinds of games. It seems as though we have about 4 weapon slots, which I'm sure you can unlock more of, or maybe you only start with 2 with cash. That catapult in the distance there was just teleported in, so we do have to go and kill that. And here's another Feral Surge or Feral Leap, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it does hurt you because you hit that explosive frosty barrel there. We can't be sure how much damage it does because, yeah, no UI. You do see chests all around, some of them have ammo. You won't need any ammo for your spells because spells function on a cooldown, so there's that. Now there are different melee swings in the Borderlands series. You swing your melee and that's it. That's just the one attack, but depending on what melee weapon you have equipped, you'll do a series of different attacks, a flurry of different attacks depending where it is. The longer two-handed weapons will also surge you forward towards your enemies, so you can surge between enemies and just kind of keep the chain going. There's another look at those rain of arrows kinds of abilities from this shotgun here. It looks pretty cool, but the IGN player here is having a bit of difficulty shooting that archer at the top with it, so he does switch weapons. Now we see ammo laden about the battlefield. We see an alternate fire mode of that gun there, so one sticks to him and the other just does damage. So it might be a legendary weapon there, it might just be a regular, we don't know for sure. But we seem to be going towards that catapult. We need to place a device on it and then shoot it to activate and blow up the catapult. And that's the first stage objective done. However, you somehow need to get across that body of water there. So here's the first look at how Tina can kind of do whatever she wants in the narrative. In this case, rebuild the catapult and let you catapult over that body of water. It's really not going to be a game where you know exactly what you need to do until you get to a position where you need to do it, which is kind of exciting for me because it's not as predictable as some of the other Borderlands was. You know, go here, kill this many creatures, kill this many bandits, whatever. In this particular case, it's gonna be, yeah, you have to save this castle, but how you do that, the means of doing so, is going to be really left up to Tiny Tina, who is notoriously unpredictable. So that's pretty exciting. Now we just have some more loops of the gameplay here, another example of the rain of arrows style shotgun, and we can see its negatives there as the skeleton can just run at you and completely avoid taking any damage. And here's a skeletal mage firing frost spells at you, and this particular gun seems to make quick work of it. Now, there's different manufacturers in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands over the regular Borderlands, but they do share similar traits with some of the guns we're used to. Black powder, for example, is Jacobs. Essentially, when you critically hit, bullets will ricochet, and we can see that with some of the gameplay here. Now, there are others, and obviously everything has got a magical twist to it, but this particular gun is very reminiscent of Borderlands. It's doing essentially the same thing, so if we didn't charge in there and start swinging with an axe, I would have thought this was Borderlands. Now, we are deeper in the castle, and we've found a golden dice. Now, what does this do? Let's have a look. It gives us some loot that we can't look at because the lack of UI. That is probably the most jarring thing for me, is not seeing the UI. It's trying to give you a good look at the beautiful landscapes, the not so cell shaded art style. Yes, it isn't cell shaded, but a lot of people would call it that. But I would much prefer to see what's going on under the hood here. Hopefully we get a look at that soon, and no doubt we will, as we are approaching release for this game. We're only a month away, so there's not very far to go, and I think the whole COVID situation and working from home has made it very difficult for the marketing team to really push this game, but it is coming out very soon, and it looks very complete from what we can see. They've let IGN play for quite a long time, and I've not seen any bugs or any clipping or anything substantial. Now, that was a sizable enemy. We did slow it down with a bit of frost damage there. And in typical Borderlands fashion, they will have their tells, and they will have their vulnerabilities. Like when he swings that sword, there is a period where you can go up behind him and hit him if you need to, or continue laying the hurt. There are multiple classes in the game. I mentioned that before. There's a Berserker, there's the Clawbringer, there's a Graveborn, there's a Spell Shot, there's a Spore Warden, and there's the Stabbomancer. So there's 6 total, but you can combine 2. Now, at the end of the game, when you finish the game, you can respec your secondary class, but you cannot respec your primary class. So your primary class is something that is locked in, so you want to try all these different combinations, you're going to need to re-roll and replay the game, and I'm guessing there is going to be quite a lot of replayability in Wonderlands, especially since they said that there is a huge focus on the end game, raids and the such. So I will be definitely experimenting. I'm thinking at the start I'm going to probably go with the Clawbringer or the Spell Shot. The Spell Shot because it gets the ability to dual wield spells. So I think it might be them actually replacing a ability slot with another spell slot, which will be interesting. Where the Clawbringer has these really cool hammer effects and a dragon pet, which will be interesting. So if you do want to go a full pet class, you can go the Clawbringer and combine that with the Graveborn, for example. Then you'll have a Lich and a dragon following around, or you can have the Graveborn and the Spore Warden and have a mushroom pet and a Lich following around. There's different combinations. So depending on how you want to build, you might combine different classes together. It's good that you can actually respec your secondary, because I'm sure you won't exactly know your first playthrough what you want to do, but at least it gives you the option there. Now, there's some more talking, I haven't been paying attention, but this is the next stage of the mission. And I think you get either the ability to wield spells or something along the lines for touching that tablet, but as I mentioned before, IGN is playing with an unlocked character, and as this is the first mission, I'm guessing you wouldn't have access to all of those things straight away, so this might be the way to do so.
Oh, man, you're doing so well. Too bad I don't have anything up my sleeve for this. Flammo!
A trial smashes through the gate!
There we go. So Tiny Tina and the Dragon Lord continue to talk to the player character as you progress through this mission. You do have your allies there firing arcane arrows. It's going to be a fun adventure. I can't wait to see what exactly they do at the end game. We're having massive armies, massive amount of enemies. It is a fantasy spin after all. It's not a sci-fi spin, so they had a bit of creative freedom with a sci-fi take on things with Borderlands, but fantasy, like I mentioned, it's magic, so you can pretty much make anything plausible, right? Now, we've seen the loop be quite a bit more dynamic than Borderlands. Like, he's been casting his action abilities quite a bit more, and these spells quite a bit more than we used to in Borderlands. You don't see... There we go, there's a feral leap. We don't see quite as much usage in Borderlands 1, 2, maybe a bit more in 3, but we don't see much usage of the grenades in the typical loop as well, since they're limited. So there is quite a bit more going on here. Here's another melee attack. Here it is. Going back to the guns and switching in some spells, we're switching in some action skills. So there's going to be a lot of ways to play, and a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, no, I'm going to go a melee build, or I'm going to go a spell focused build, or I'm going to go pure guns. But there is a large focus on being a hybrid in this game. Like, you can hybridize your character to quite a degree. And if you mix in, pets, the ability that the Graveborns have to summon things from dead enemies as well, you could hybridize quite successfully, like mixing in death effects alongside summons, alongside death spells, for example. There's quite a lot going on under the hood in terms of characterization. And if you combine the fact that there is so many more items in this game than the typical Borderlands, you got amulets, for example, and don't forget, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize, is that when you build your character, you actually put in attribute points. So strength, for example, is an attribute, and that does things to contribute to the gameplay as well. So there's a lot of customization going on within this game. Speaking of, we've just actually switched up a little bit here. We've got another pistol, and we've got this lightning spell coming out. Yeah, there it is. And the cooldown on this is ridiculous. You'll see it a bit later on, how quickly you can spam it out. And if you have the ability to dual wield spells, if you're the spell shot, for example, I'm envisioning having 2 of those spells and just being able to constantly cast them. Just bam, 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 and never needing to actually fire a shot. That's granted you don't like using weapons, and I'm sure you'll probably need to invest quite a lot into spell cooldowns, but you can do it. Now this is, I'm fairly certain the Berserker's ability to add frost damage to their shots, and that's why that it seems like a fire damage focused weapon was leaving a frost effect. And this is another interesting weapon. As you probably saw, I don't really want to rewind it back, fire out a ball of plasma and switch to a secondary, and then when the secondary beam hit that ball of plasma, it attached to one of the enemies, and I'm guessing that's a damage over the time effect or maybe an explosion that occurs, but it was pretty interesting. We don't get to see it come to fruition because the enemy was killed before it did anything, but it is interesting. And now we've seen a little bit more of this kind of frost effect and this rapid fire kind of Jacob's sort of pistol. Some lightning weaved in there. We see these wyverns throwing these flaming balls at you. There's a lot going on the screen here. Now with Borderlands, when you're under-geared, you really feel it. You can't kill things fast enough, you get killed too fast, you do feel it. And with Wonderlands, the one fear I have is that you're going to have so much more to collect, be it spells and different amulets and all these different things that help you with the power creep, that if you don't go out of your way to collect things, or you just simply get unlucky, will you feel too, weak throughout some certain sections? And that's one particular time in the Borderlands series that I do feel like I don't enjoy the game, is when I'm so underpowered that everything becomes sort of tedious. I hope that's not the case in Wonderlands, and I hope it's been tuned properly, but I'm sure they've learnt their lessons from the other Borderlands titles. A game is obviously about loot at the end of the day. It is a looter shooter. It is a looter shooter zapper smasher, I guess, at this particular point, but there is a lot more RNG going on under the hood here. We know that melee weapons have their own affixes, I can't pronounce that probably, their own legendary effects. Spells do as well, amulets do, bits of gear, your shields, which aren't called shields in this, they're called something else. All of that have different effects, and obviously RNG is going to play a big part. There's obviously a lot more to collect for the end game, but let's see how he opens his door.
We seduce the drawbridge.
Greetings, inanimate object. Would you like to engage in physical congress?
Yeah, I'm not even gonna make you roll for that. The drawbridge, it digs your flavor, baby.
Works every time.
So yeah, I don't even really need to say anything here. This is just yet another example of what to expect with Tiny Tina's. If you're the kind of person that says cringe a lot and is particularly susceptible to this kind of cringe level, then you're probably not going to enjoy it, because this is what we can expect. I love this stuff. I laugh at it. I don't take it seriously. So for me, this is brilliant. But some people might not like it, might not like this style of humor. So here's another look at that gun that fires those plasma beams. I really don't understand what's going on with it, but there we go. I mean, it's something. These wyverns don't really like frost, as they do freeze and then fall to the ground, so we all know that flying types aren't good against ice. There, I said it. We have another look at some of the lightning strikes there. They seem to do quite a bit of damage, but it does seem to be sort of single targets, if you want to call it that. I've never really liked these fire as fast as you can pull a trigger kind of style guns. I don't know why. I get that it's kind of that cowboy feel to it, but it's not my thing. Now, you just have to clear up all these enemies, and this should be near the end of this particular stage of this particular level here. Well, that was a cool death effect there. There we go, just finishing up the skeletons, and then there's a little bit of an army here. We're going to use the Dreadwind. There it is. As you can see, the sound design on Wonderlands is next level. They've definitely picked their game up, and there is a lot of weight to the weapons, there's a lot of weight to the action skills, especially when you look at something like the Clawbringer with the Thor-like hammer. It really has weight to it. It makes this ding sound when it hits the ground, things explode around you. So, what do you think, guys? What do you think so far of this gameplay? Is this the kind of game you would buy? Is this what you expected? Is this what you were looking forward to? Let me know below. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. Do you want to see more of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands? Also, let me know. So, for everything Wonderlands, for everything RPG, you're already in the right place. Keep it here on /Dantics. Ciao, friends.
They anticipated your arrival, and then you hear the clop of perfect hooves upon the cobblestones. They belong to the most goodest, majesticest ruler ever seen by mortal eyes.
Queen Butt Stallion!
Her magnificence. It just washes over you, man.
Yes, I feel it. It's fizzy.
You spilled your soda.
Yes, I did, and it was in honor of the Queen.
Yeah? Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll tell him. Yeah, okay. So, she says you are the bravest fate maker the Wonderlands has seen in generations. But though you have pushed back the Dragon Lord's attack, his downfall can only be brought about by one thing. You must go and retrieve
The Sword of Souls!
I was getting to that! Yeah, it's a Sword of Souls. Although, thank you, Valentine, for paying attention to the exposition.
The Sword of Souls is the coolest weapon in the whole game. Are we really getting that?
I mean, if you complete the quest, yeah.
I'll murder this whole quest and everyone in it. I want that sword.
Intense, but it's in the right spirit. Mostly.
Her Majesty says that the Sword of Souls is hidden in the Shatter Grave